So we were going back and forth. And then she's like, oh, we have one more interview with you with another producer. Just give me your time and we could do like a FaceTime call. I was like, okay, cool. Next thing you know, I'm sitting in my living room. Phone rings. It's Jennifer Hudson calling me.
Here we go. Today I'm calling Farah in Cranford, New Jersey. Farah is an incredible nursing educator and a mom of two.
I was an emergency nurse, even though my clinical instructor told me I would never be an ER nurse. And I was like, watch me, lady. I will do it.
Now you're helping others become a nurse.
Yeah, so that's what I did. I did that. I went to New York City, did travel nursing. I was a level 1 trauma nurse, did all that good stuff. I'm in education now, but I opened up my own business, basically helping other nurses land their dream role and really empowering nurses, women, telling them they could do whatever they want to do. Don't listen to people. And even I wrote a book on how nurses can help really start their own businesses and their side hustle so they can make more money. And it's called Nurses Making Money Moves.
Nurses Making Money Moves.
Welcome to the Nurse Boss Shift. It's your girl, Dr. Kiana Jones.
I'm Crystal P, the Beauty and P.
And today we have an amazing guest. You guys already know we bring the dopest people on to give you guys all the value to help you take the step or move further on your entrepreneur journey. So I want to introduce you guys to Dr. Farah Laurent. She is an international nurses coach. She's a speaker, and she also has a background in healthcare leadership, and she is coming in to drop some gems. Welcome, Dr. Farah.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's been a long time coming. So glad that I could be here. And thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yes. And now tell a little bit about, we'll tell how we met initially, but tell a little bit about your nursing background and then like where you are right now that led to us asking you to please come on our podcast.
Sure. So I'll try to give you like the notes, quick notes. So basically, I started my career in Canada. I was a nurse there, went to nursing school, got my BSN. I always tell this story that as a nursing student, I wanted to go into the ER. And my clinical instructor literally laughed at me and said, you would never be an ER nurse. You are too unorganized and that you should go to med-surg. And I was like, what? I was like, is she kidding me? She's an educator. Instead of uplifting me, she's telling me this nonsense. So of course, I didn't listen and I was very stubborn and ambitious. I pursued the ED, got hired as a nursing student in the ED because I absolutely loved it. I used to watch life trauma in the ER. I was like, that's the type of nurse I'm going to be a badass ER nurse. So that's what I did for like 13 years. I left Canada. I went to New York City to pursue travel nursing because I love traveling. So I was like, let me try some travel nursing. And y'all, at that time, I was not getting that travel paid like the COVID era. So I stayed in New York for a bit. I met my husband and then really just settled in New York. Worked in many different areas in the ER, level 1 trauma, ended up getting 6 board certifications in education, leadership, and in emergency medicine. Got my master's, like I said, in education, and then transitioned into some leadership roles up to the director of education. And of course, it took me some time because as we know, sometimes the most qualified nurses are not the ones that always get the positions due to different factors, right? Like discrimination, So I'm not going to get into all that now, but it took me a while. It took me 2 years after my master's to get an education position. And I always say when it rains, it pours. I had 2 positions at the same time. So I had an NYU adjunct faculty role and also a clinical educator role. So I had to negotiate with them so I could keep both. So I did that. Fast forward to the director role. It was like my dream job. I share this story all the time. I was actually in a meeting with my educators I was there for about 10 months and I get a call and they're like, hey, can you just come to the, C-suite for a minute? I was like, I'm in the middle of a meeting. I'm like, can it wait? They're like, yeah, it's just going to take a few minutes. And then literally got laid off in the matter of a minute. And they're like, so I was like, when is this effective? They're like, yeah, today. So at that time is when I decided, I'm going to go all in on my business, which I had started exactly a year prior of me getting laid off. And the business that I started that you mentioned is Farah Laurent, International Nurse Coach, where I help nurses level up in their career and land their dream job in less than 90 days. Because when I was a new nurse, I didn't have that support. So that's why I decided to open up that business. And ever since 2021, that summer that I started the business, I was never really active on social media. I was never on LinkedIn. I didn't even have a picture. And then I was like, I got to really be visible for people to know me, like me, and trust me. So then I was like, all right. So all in on LinkedIn. I don't know if you guys know, but I was recently featured on the Jennifer Hudson Show. And it aired on April 12th. You guys missed that. Yes. I'm a big deal, y'all.
That's important. Big deal. Right. I love it. So what was the segment? What was it?
So the segment was really, I didn't even know that I was going to get a call from her, but I applied to be on the show and I got a call from one of the producers like in December around Christmas time. And she was just asking me questions. And then, me, I was like, so are you going to like bring me to Cali so I can meet Jennifer Hudson? Like, what's going on? And she was laughing. She's like, no, we're just doing interviews. And I was like, okay. So we were going back and forth. And then she's like, oh, we have one more interview with you with another producer. Just give me your time and we could do like a FaceTime call. I was like, okay, cool. Next thing you know, I'm sitting in my living room. Phone rings. It's Jennifer Hudson calling me.
Wow.
Yeah. And then she just literally was just like asking me about my business, me being a nurse, and the reason I started my business. And then we chatted for about 5 minutes. She met the kids and that was it.
And how did she find you? How did her team find you anyway?
Oh, I applied on the website. I manifested it. I manifested it.
You manifested it. Okay.
I was like, I'm going to be on the show.
Okay. How did you find it you weren't just like, oh, let me just look on Jennifer Hudson's website and see if she happens to have something for nurses. How did you get that?
So
what
basically,
happened?
I was like, well, how can I be like really visible? What would be a really great show to be on? And I absolutely love Jennifer Hudson. I've been watching her since American Idol, since The Voice, since she's been throwing shoes on the stage. She's my girl. So I was like, I want to be on the Jennifer Hudson show. So then I went on and I looked. They had something about women in business or entrepreneurship. So I was like, let me apply to this. And of course, I worked on like my pitch. I didn't really know how to pitch. But I do follow somebody on LinkedIn. I don't know if you know her. Her name is Precious L. Williams. She calls herself the pitch master. She's like the pitch queen. She wrote several books on pitching. So really, I just pitched myself through like an email type thing and just sent it away. Didn't think much of it. And I was like, I was telling everybody. I told my mom, I was like, so I'm going to be on the Jennifer Hudson show. And I told a couple of my friends. And then like 6 months later, I got the call and boom, that was it.
See, now that's a crazy story.
So you guys have to check it out. I'm going to have to send you the clip.
Yes, send us the clip. That is crazy.
So, celebrity right here.
No, seriously. And the fact that just kind of speaks volumes just to the audacity of like sending an email like, hey, I see this, because a lot of times nurses will count themselves out. They won't even think that something like that is possible. And Crystal, you and I struggle with this too. Like we don't do enough, and we talk about it. We don't do enough like go get it versus we wait for them to come to us versus like we need to be out there. Like you said, pitching yourself. You just said, oh, I like Jennifer Hudson. Let me see what they got going on. Like,
yes.
That's so dope.
You gotta be a go-getter. That's it. You gotta be a go-getter in general in life. And it's funny, I was actually watching this video a couple days ago and I was like, I'm going to use this in one of my speaking gigs. And this guy was like, he's like, do you want to know how to separate losers from winners? He's like, let me just show you right quick. So he takes like a $50 bill. He's like, this is available. Who wants it? Type thing. And the audience is like, just puts their hand up.
Yeah.
And then there's one lady who gets up and she just takes the money. And I was like, that's it.
Exactly.
So it's like he talks about what separates losers from winners is people that are constantly taking action and just going for it, no matter what. So that's, I love that video. Yeah.
Yeah. Versus asking for permission. That's powerful. And I think definitely for, the line of work that we do, and the indoctrination that happens in nursing school, we definitely ask for permission. Like, we follow orders, right? So that's kind of interwoven into the fabric of our practice. Is like, we have to get orders. We have to follow the orders, right?
That's why I was so drawn to the ED.
What would you say? Because I know Crystal's ED, you're ED. I don't like ED at all. Like, you don't understand. Like, my first experience with ED, I was working at the VA. And so in critical care at the VA in West LA, you had to rotate to all the critical care units. So it was like PCU, ICU, PACU, and ED. And my experiences with ED was so horrible that even as a nursing supervisor, when I had to round, I'd literally peek my hand like, y'all good? All right, bye. Like, I don't like ED at all, right? So Crystal, I know Crystal's been in ED for a long time as well. So tell me, how has that, or had that played any role in like your transition from like ED, or, throughout leadership, and also once you started your business? What would you say those skills were?
Absolutely. So I think, as Crystal probably knows, right, I think what attracted me to the ED was the ability to have that autonomy. And also I just can't sit still. And I love talking to people and like running around doing so many different things. So I was like, this is my jam. Like, that's what I like to do. And I like critical care. So you get to see a little bit of everything so you don't get bored. And I think it's the same in entrepreneurship. There's that excitement, uncertainty, that type of stuff. So I think that's what also drew me towards entrepreneurship. The ED really, I think, builds you up in terms of resiliency. People talk about resiliency and all that, but it's like, there is nothing else, right? Like, I'm sorry. So some people are like, oh, don't compare units or whatever. I don't care. I will say it and I believe it. ER nurses are the baddest nurses around, and I don't even care, because you cannot stop the door, right? You have walk-ins coming in. You can't say, no, we're closed. And we hardly go on diversion unless like there's a fire or something. Ambulances are coming in. You get trauma patients coming in. And when you have boarded patients, you can't send them. Guess where they stay? In the ER. So you have to problem solve like crazy, and you have to just make it happen. We used to joke around. I'm like, let's just get some bunk beds going because we don't have enough beds, right? Put people in chairs. So the fact that you just have to quickly think and just make it happen because it's like life or death. So that's why, to me, entrepreneurship is fun, because it's like you figure things out, you problem solve, and like nobody's dying, but and if you do, like right now, I still kind of working off and on, but to go full in entrepreneurship, which I haven't done yet, but I'm on my journey to do so, that takes a lot of courage, right? I wouldn't recommend anybody to just cold quit their job and go entrepreneurship unless you have like some funds saved up or whatever, but some people do. So I think just overall ER has prepared me professionally and personally just to be more resilient, to be more of an advocate, and to just problem solve really easily and critically think. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, as far as your coaching business, so what do you find in the nurses of this day and age? Because I feel like every decade is different of nursing. What do you feel like they need the most in this decade in advancing their career to the next level? Because you help them, get the job of their dreams. So do you notice any shifts from maybe back when you started to how the market is now?
Definitely number one thing is mindset. And I didn't think about that's what I would be helping them with when I first started my business. I was thinking more of like a technical aspect, like, oh, let me help you with your resume. Let me help you with your interview. Da, da. Then when I started, I was like, whoa, they got some mindset issues. Like, what is going on? I'm like, you got like all these qualifications, certifications, and you still don't think you should be applying for this? Like, you think you're not prepared? What is wrong, right? So it's a lot of mindset and transformation. There's a lot of self-esteem issues, kind of like I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, even with experienced nurses. So mindset is really what I think they need to work on. And that's what I help them with, that transformation, and to like go boldly after what you want and confidently go and get it. Because as we know, our male counterparts, right, they're just going after jobs they're not even qualified for and negotiating for salaries and things like that. So it's all about mindset, I think, and just going for it.
And what does going boldly look like? Like, if from a practical perspective, what does like tiptoeing look like versus like going boldly? Tell me how that looks.
So for one example, I helped, there was one particular nurse that I helped coach that was already in the hospital that she wanted to work. She was working, I think, as a PCT or something to that effect, and she wanted to be in the ICU. I was like, hello? I was like, you already work in the hospital. What's the problem? So basically, I told her, you need to walk up to the nurse manager office, knock on her door, and say, hey, I'm currently working as a PCT. I don't work on your unit, but I want to work in the ICU. So can I get your email and phone number, and just go for the ask? Just go and ask and be visible.
And by doing so, that led to her. Did she get it?
Oh, right. Yes, of course. So in the beginning, she didn't listen to me. I'm sorry, my bad. She didn't listen to me. She didn't listen. So like a lot of times we're coaches, we're telling them what to do and they don't really follow up. So like 2 days later, I followed up with her. I was like, so did you go and speak to her? And she's like, no, I didn't. So I was like, go back, speak to her. So she did. Literally, when she went up to her, she said the next day she got an interview. She interviewed. I prepared her for the interview, and she said that the interview went so well that she told her to wait a minute, and she brought all the staff in to meet her. And I was like, you got the job. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, why would she pause and bring everybody in to meet you? I'm like, you got the job. And then literally she got like the next day offer.
What would you say is the value though of like having, because you teach them how to obtain their dream job, right?
Yeah.
What would you say, what does that look like, or how does that translate into like quality of life, happiness, fulfillment? What would you say that looks like for people who dare to really try to obtain their or be in a position that's their dream job?
So really, honestly, the reason obviously I started this business is because like I'm helping people like me when I was new, right? So if I would have listened to that clinical instructor tell me, no, don't go to the ER, go to med-surg, I would have been miserable. I would have hated it. I hated med-surg. I'm like, I want nothing to do with med-surg, right? And nursing school sometimes gets you in this thing that like you have to start in the hospital. You don't even have to start in the hospital. I tell nurses all the time, if you want to go and start your med spa or your own business or work in psychiatry or open up your own practice, do it, right? You don't have to go the traditional route. So really what it is they don't understand that if they go after what they want, it's going to help everything else in their life too. And a lot of times I think a lot of nurses, what they do is they try to create a job that will just fit into their life type thing. But I say you gotta create your lifestyle. Like what type of lifestyle do you want first? Visualize that. What type of hours do you want to work? And then think about what type of job you want. But people usually do it backwards, and that becomes a problem. And then it trickles in other areas of their life. Because if you're miserable at work, you're there the majority of the time, it's going to trickle in other parts of your life. And then you're not going to give good care. I mean, I'm just talking direct patient care, but you're just not going to be happy and not going to be productive in doing your best wherever you are. And the excitement that I felt when I got that, whatever I really wanted was the ER or the education job or whatever. It's a different type of, you don't even feel like you're going to work, right? Because you love what you do. So that's the feeling that I want to give back to them, to be like, do not settle. And I remember one particular nurse was like, oh, Farah, but I got another offer. I'm like, don't you take that offer. I'm like, because you interviewed with the ED, just wait for it. You'll get the offer. And it's all about really having that belief. And I think that's part of that mindset and the belief part, like having that conviction to be like, yes, this is going to happen. I'm going to make it happen. And this is meant for me, and just following your purpose. Cause really that's truly what it is. Cause you're not going to feel that fulfillment.
My next question was going to ask, because in our coaching space too, we find a lot, like people will ask us, well, how many of your students have started their businesses? And we know that the information is there. We know we've had students who have started their businesses in the amount of time that we say that if you hustle, you can start it.
Yeah.
And I always say we can't really gauge it by that because people don't listen, right? So it is a lot of the mindset. And we noticed that too. That's why we were laughing, because it's all mindset, especially in the beginning. Like, as we say, we can hand you all the tools, but if you don't believe that you can do it, then you're not going to do anything with it. And so I just wonder how many, or do you find a lot people give you pushback? Because I've always been I don't even want to say I'm a shy person, but I'm more of a quiet person, but I always have felt or known that in order to get what I want, I have to go after it. So I wonder what makes people so scared of that, especially with nursing and all the opportunities that we have.
I think it's just back to that belief. And I think people are just comfortable. That's all it is. They're comfortable.
And you know what's crazy? They're comfortable with being uncomfortable, though. It's like, I don't like this job. I dread going every day. And even when I'm off, I dread the fact that I have to go back at some point, but it's what I'm used to. And it brings in a paycheck. And, they give themselves all of these excuses for why it's okay. But the truth of the matter is they are afraid. And some nurses, and I'm sure you've worked with them, they are deathly afraid. And then when you ask them, what are you afraid of? They cannot articulate it, because what they don't understand is it's their subconscious that they haven't reprogrammed, because they are, which we know is accumulation of like our parents' fears, our grandparents' fears, what they indoctrinated in us in nursing school, all these other things that has programmed our subconscious mind. And we have this manual mind that has no idea what to do with it. So the manual mind says like, hey, I want to do this. The subconscious mind say, girl, you can't. Like, what about your bills? What about your this? What about your that? And you're not as smart as Sally. And Sally has this degree. And Sally did this. And Sally has a husband with money, or whatever excuses. And then you just say, okay, I can't. Right. And you allow that to make the decision. So how do you help them with that? Because I really want to know too, because I try. But sometimes I am just like, listen, girl, go get therapy. You need to like read some books. You need to it's going to take a lot, but I don't know. What's your technique or what's your strategy when you're dealing with those type of people who are just like, every time you talk to them, they're just like, I can't because how do you deal with them?
Basically, so I think part of it is also I've learned in my business is that I don't want to take on all clients, right? You got to qualify your clients, right? Qualify your leads, right? Because what will happen is if they're the type that, will not take any action, then it's going to be a reflection on you somewhat, but really you're giving them all the tools. They're just not taking action on it. So number one, you want to qualify your leads and the type of clients. So I usually have a consultation call with them. And this is another way I qualify my leads to know if they're serious. So I follow a lot of people like millionaires like Rachel Rodgers, Alex Hermosi and that. So Rachel, I was on one of her things once, this like weekly coaching thing. And she said, you guys better start charging for consultation calls. I was going back and forth for a long time, but I decided to do it because I was getting so many calls that were just a waste of time. And I was like, I'm not doing that no more. So that helped to qualify the leads because people are serious. If they're going to put their money down, they're going to be serious, right? Also, the amount. So I had trouble with that in the beginning, like how much to charge. Again, Rachel Rodgers is always about like double your prices. Alex Hermosi talks about that too and says like, if something is low priced, you think it's like, oh, I'm giving you a discount or it's low. Sometimes people perceive it as cheap. Right. And then if you're not vested, like I put a lot of money down, so I'm going to make this work. So the offer, I think, is important. And then really, I think what it is you have to hold them accountable. Right. Because holding them accountable and pushing them is really what is like the coaching part. If it's a program where it's like they're just watching something, like a digital product where they're just like, oh, here are the steps. Most of the time, they're not going to do it. Just like books, right? So I'm also, we're all human. I'm guilty of this too. I read books and then sometimes I don't implement all the actions that are in the book. And then I talked about this in some of the speaking gigs that I've done. You get into this like over planning mode. You're planning way too much and you're not taking any action. You're reading all this, consuming so much content, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Nothing. So you got to hold them accountable and say, hey, listen, just be honest. I thought you were going to do this, this, and the other. Where is it at? What's going on? Da, da, da. Just like that one client, I kept following up with her. But again, I think you can tell in the coaching call. And the number one thing is to help them visualize their current state going to what their future state should look like. So a big part of it is like in weight loss, right? It's like, do you want to get over here? But most of them think that it's going to happen overnight, right? They're not committed to that action. They're not committed to be like going live every week on LinkedIn or showing up on social media. They're like, why is it not happening? I posted twice. It's like, no, you got to put in the work. And I think most people don't want to put in the work because it's uncomfortable, like you said.
See, that's interesting. And I feel like a lot of nurses could, seeing us like nurses who are actually doing it and understanding that we really truly were where you are. And it really took a lot of reprogramming and unlearning to get to where we are. And that should give them, what I would hope is that it gives them the inspiration to see like, okay, they can do, if they did it, I can do it. And now I know you're a mom, right? You're a mom of how many?
2, 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. Yeah.
3 and 7. Crystal is a mom of 2. I'm a mom of a lot more than y'all. Okay. And so with all of that being said, we still have been able to do it. And I like that you pointed out, which I think this is going to be powerful too, for those who are listening or watching on YouTube, is that you're not a fan of like, quit your job and just do it, right? It's like, I really feel it's a personal journey to get to that point where you're ready to be a full-time entrepreneur. And it took me until 2021. I started in 2017. I launched in 2018. And it took me until 2021 before I became a full-time entrepreneur. And even sometimes now I still be like, let me see what jobs is out there. Maybe because sometimes it gets like, man, this is some bull. You know what I'm saying? It's still in me to be like, maybe I should just, because I could just cut my losses here and just like, live my life, right? But but with that being said, when you're connected to something that's so much bigger, right? And it's not just, I haven't heard you once say like, yeah, more money or more this. It's like impact is what I'm hearing, and like adding value to the lives of others and being the person you needed when you first started is what you're doing. Is same like Crystal and I. So my next question for you would be like, what would you say those, because most of our listeners are either they're listening because they want to start their business, or they're new in their business and they're just like, what in the world did I just sign myself up for? So what would be one needle mover or one lever that if you had back, because what was that in 2021 you said?
Summer of 21, yeah. Summer of
2021. So it's been 3 years. Looking back, what would be one lever that if you knew about, you would have utilized as a like new business owner or, coach who was coming out into the marketplace? What would be the one lever?
So hands down, visibility, hands down. Building your target audience and being visible, not only on social media, but and networking events. It's tough for me now to be in-person events, even though I do live really close to New York City. There's events all the time, right? But I'm, married with 2 kids. When I started my business, though, I want to just tell people, like, just stop with the excuses, because everybody else can do it, right? And if you really want it, you'll do it. I started it when I was in my DMP program full-time, working full-time, and I started the business with 2 small kids. right? So it's like, it is possible, but you need also to find somebody who's where you want to be. So for example, you have your med spa. I'm sure if somebody wants to start a med spa, like they probably shouldn't go talk to somebody who, is doing nothing near that.
Staffing, if they have a staffing.
Right. Like some of the concepts like might be a little bit similar because like really business is all about really having a service, having a product and selling it. But really, I think personal brand, back to that lever, building your personal brand, which is that trust factor, and giving consistent value through like education and just giving back to the audience. If I would have started that earlier on all social media platforms, right now I'm mostly on LinkedIn, like going live videos, meeting different people, I think your business will just skyrocket because I follow a lot of like people that talk about brands. Actually, I don't have the book right here, but I just finished this book. It's called Brand Flip. And it just talks about like how people have the wrong idea what branding is like, right? And branding is really just your reputation and how people perceive you, right? And people, like once you build up your brand and they trust you, they don't even care what you're putting out. Like, you could be like, you want to buy this water? They're like, sure, let me buy it because they're a fan. Like you've built a tribe because they trust you. They like you, right? The know, like, and trust. So that's the biggest lever is to really be out there and be authentic and have integrity, right?
Yes.
Because business is all about doing business with other people. And that's all it is. And if you can, early on in my business, I didn't learn this, but client acquisition is very difficult, right? So when you do get the clients, how do you keep them? And how do you have upsells, like different offers of how to serve them? Because it's not just like a one and done. And I had to learn that. So definitely, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, so what question they're going to have for you is, you said increased visibility. They're going to be like, well, I don't have a following. I'm just going to tell you the excuses because I've heard them all, right? So they're going to say to you, well, Dr. Lauren, that sounds good, but you're already on Instagram and you already have a following and Dr. Jones have a following, Crystal have a following. You guys are on the podcast. What about me? Like I got like 500 followers, 300 followers on Instagram and that's it. I don't even have a profile picture. Like tell me, how do I increase my visibility? Give them 3 things that they should do right now. If they're like, I want to have visibility, like, but I'm not you guys. So tell them what they need to do.
All right. So actually, I'm trying to build my visibility on Instagram and these other platforms because I was never really active on them. But you got to pick 1 to 2 platforms to really focus on. You can't want to do it on everything, and pick platforms that where you think your target audience is going to be. Hands down, LinkedIn should definitely be one of those because there are so many decision makers on LinkedIn. So, right, when we talk about B2B, business to business or business to consumer, everybody's on LinkedIn and they're not over there trying to just watch cat videos or whatever they're doing. They're there to do business and like make strong connections or whatever it is. And you got to think people are watching. So you can't just give up and you can't just post like once a month and think like what's happening. You have to do it every day. So I would say post every day. Once a day and see what happens, or at least start with weekly and be consistent with your posting. But don't post like stuff that has nothing to do with what you're trying to sell or promote or build. And then you don't need to have a business to start a personal brand, right? You can start even way before. And nurses don't understand that you are the brand.
They don't understand that. They think they have to have a full-on business. Well, I don't have my LLC. I don't have my, so what? You're a nurse. What are you good at on that unit? Are you good at discharge, patient education? Are you great at facilitating, like integrating certain plans for your plan of care for you? What are you good at? Just start there and just start talking about it and start educating people. That's what they miss. You have to go out there and give value and have no other reason except I just want to help people. Right. And then that will start taking a life of its own. But they're looking at you and me and Crystal and they're like, hey, you guys already have a business. I don't have, start going on there. Get out of your own way. Right. Like stop making excuses and show up. And I like the visibility aspect.
Yeah.
Because that's what helped me a lot. And my platform at the time was Instagram. And I just started I finally said, F it. I don't care what people think. I don't care if people, they might see me and I'm over that.
Yes.
I have something to say and I can help people and I'm going to focus only on them. So those trash talkers, those people who really don't like me, I am not going to give them the energy. They can do whatever they want to do. I want to help people. And that's how you have to look at it. And I think a lot of people miss that. Go ahead.
I think that's another thing that kind of stopped me from starting earlier because I was afraid of what my employer may think. Or why are you on LinkedIn? I don't understand it. I'm like, don't worry about it. You don't need to understand it.
It's not your business.
Right. And the other thing is that sometimes people may have good intentions, but all they're going to spew out is just negativity. So surround yourself with like-minded people that are trying to get into entrepreneurship. You can't be hanging out with people who don't want to do anything all day or don't have goals, right? So, what do they say? Your salary or something is going to be
network connected to your network
of the 5 people that you hang out with. Because really, in the end, it's really what you consume and who you surround yourself with, and not so much just friends, right? What are you consuming? What are you listening to? Because I'm telling you, I've been really into this mindset and manifesting stuff. You can really manifest things to happen, but it's not just woo woo, I hope this to happen. There's no hoping. You have to take action. And that's the thing about the visibility, and the social media. I probably made the mistake of separating when I started on LinkedIn. I'm I have my personal LinkedIn and I'm going to start a business LinkedIn. Don't do that because you're the same person. You just happen to. So I had to start from scratch from my one LinkedIn. And now I don't want to delete it because I think it's going to mess up both. So I just keep it the same. But I went from 0 to literally today, 17,000 in less than 3 years. So it is possible. And I don't even post every day. But if you post every day, people will see you and they'll start taking notice and listening to you. And don't be afraid to be, people talk about thought leadership, whatever, but just don't be afraid to think differently and do differently. And this is what they talk about personal branding. If everybody's going left and doing all these things this way, just go right, do something else, totally different. And that'll help you stand out.
Definitely the blue ocean strategy for sure. And that's the thing. People are trying to fight in that red ocean.
Yeah.
Seriously, it doesn't even, So, okay, Chris, any last questions before we get Dr. Laurent's contact info and how everyone can reach her?
No, this is wonderful. And I hope the nurses who are listening or anyone who is out there listening and on the fence is really taking heed to what we're saying, because I know a lot when I listen to this, things like this back when I was just getting started, it kind of went over my head, but slowly those things that you're listening to and keep consuming, like you guys are saying, it plays in the back of your head. Right. So really listen to this. And what I pull away from it, something I had to tell myself, the quicker you get over yourself is the quicker that your business expands. So everyone out there who is just thinking about what people are thinking, we talked about today, just don't even worry about those people because you want them to unfollow you. So then they're not, watching your page. So don't worry about the people who are not there for you. Just worry about the people who are going to be there. And people are waiting for you guys who are listening to do what you need to do so that they can get saved, right? So if Farah didn't have someone like her when she was getting into this, so now she is that person. So there's other people who are waiting for you to become that person so they can get ahead and have their dream career like Miss Farah is allowing all of her coaching students to do so.
Thank you. And I want to say something real quick. I know before we end it all off, you never know who you're helping and you never know who's watching. I literally had somebody book a consultation call. She didn't want any of my services. She just booked a consultation call to tell me that a lot of the content that I was producing helped her make the decision to get out of a toxic workplace. And she's like, please continue to do the positive content that you put out, because she said it helped me. And she was literally crying. And I was like, oh my goodness. When you think oh, I don't know if I should put this, I'm tired. people, it's helping, right? It's helping people. You're helping transform lives. You're helping with, people starting their business. It's life changing because the only, right, like the highest, biggest currency is like time. Right. And I think that's what business gives you. In the beginning, you're probably putting a lot more work, but eventually you're planting the seed and eventually you're going to get the, you're going to be able to reap all those rewards later. Right.
Yes, agreed, 1,000%. And it's the quiet ones though that they don't like, they don't comment, but they're watching, and you are really helping them. And that's what I think people miss.
Yeah.
Not all the squeaky wheel gets the oil, they say, but there's a lot of people who are just watching. They're quiet. They don't, they don't feel comfortable commenting, but they really, really are receiving what you're putting out, and it's really having an impact on them. So yes, I agree totally.
So thank you guys for this platform and having me on.
Listen, we love what we do. We started ugly too with this. Like how we have the audacity to start a podcast. We didn't know what we were doing, right? We still don't, but we're just forging ahead. They said the average podcast only has 10 episodes and they give up. We're at like episode 50 something where we're at. Like we just keep on forging ahead, and like people are watching, and we're like, okay, awesome, let's keep going.
That's great.
Thank you, Dr. Laurent, for coming on. Now, how can people reach you? How can people work with you? Those who were like, I'm ready to find my dream job. I want the help. Like, can you teach me how to do that? Tell us about your platforms.
So you can find me on LinkedIn. So Dr. Farah Laurent, and that's where I'm most active. And then you can go to my website, nursefarah.com. You can also get my book there.
Yes.
Nurses Making Money
Moves. Nurses Making Money Moves.
A Nurse's Guide to Starting a Business. So that you can find on nursefarah.com. And then I also have my own LinkedIn live show that I've now turned into a podcast, because I did the same thing. I started the podcast, did a few episodes. I'm like, screw it. It's still not perfect. Like, I don't even number my episodes, but I'm just putting it out there because I'm like, I don't have I just got a virtual assistant to help with some of the videos and stuff like that. But I'm really just downloading my lives and putting it into the podcast. It's called The Nursing Dose with Farah. So you can find it on Spotify. And then the Nursing Dose with Farah show, you can find it on YouTube if you just type in YouTube, and you'll see all the previous shows that I've had. And then I'm taking on clients right now for new graduate nurses because everybody's graduating. I have some clients, and I'm doing some group coaching. And then I also have a mentorship and coaching program that I'll be launching actually at the end of this month, which will be a 6-month mentorship coaching program. So just look up my name. You'll see me there. I write a bunch of articles. I'm a contributor to Minority Nurse and also a speaker. So if you're looking for a speaker for nursing events, let me know. And I'm also trying to change the culture of healthcare because we need healthier work places, because Lord knows I've been in some toxic workplaces. So that's kind of what I'm trying to change the nursing game. So thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah, you're welcome. And so if they want to work with you, they go to the website though, right? The same place where your book is.
They could go to the website, nursefarah.com, or if you go on LinkedIn under my name, you can actually book a consultation call there.
And you're on Instagram too, right?
Yes, I am. I'm not that active, but I am there too. Yes.
Okay. What's your Instagram? That's okay. They can follow.
I think it's, I don't even know. I think it's Farah Laurent Inc. It's horrible. Yeah.
Inc. Okay. Farah Laurent Inc. LAURENT for those who are listening on the podcast. So, all right, Dr. Laurent, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for adding value to our listeners. As always, you guys, don't gatekeep. Make sure you share this episode. As you guys know, we're always bringing amazing nurses and even non-nurses who can have an impact on your life and help you get across that entrepreneur threshold and start taking action. So Dr. Farah Laurent has definitely done that. And so we want to thank you so much for joining us. You guys, her information will be in the show notes, or if you're watching this on YouTube, it will also be in the comment. And is it called comment section? What is it on YouTube?
Oh, I don't even know. Oh yeah, and then check out my Jennifer Hudson segment.
Oh, yes. So give us the link and then we'll put that also in the show notes as well. So you guys will be able to connect with her. So we'll get all your details, by the way, and put it in the show notes.
Okay.
And you guys make sure you go ahead and follow her also. And you guys, until next week, we'll be back. Y'all, we've been on a roll. We've been consistent. We're so proud of ourselves. You see how we're doing this in real time, y'all? Y'all can do the same thing if you decide to show up and make no excuses. Until next time, you guys.
Bye.